to Season 2 of the Fairways People podcast, where we share inspiring stories, meaningful conversations, and the voices behind our charity. Each episode offers a closer look at the people and passion that drive us. Hosted by Fairways Managing Director Gareth Webb.
Hello everyone, so welcome to another Fairways People podcast. So I'm Gareth Webb, the Managing Director. For our podcast today, we have Eileen Calnan, our designated safeguarding officer for the whole charity. So welcome, Eileen.
Thank you.
Great to have you on board. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Good. So I'm actually quite excited about today's one because I want to know more about your previous career.
Yeah.
But we'll come on to that. So I'll give a little bit of introduction to Eileen. So you've worked for Fairways now for around 2 years, is it?
2 years yesterday.
Wow, I can't believe that's gone.
Gone really fast.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. I was guessing earlier, I was thinking, it must be a good 12, 14 months.
I know, I can't believe it's 2 years.
Crazy. So you joined us as our safeguarding officer, so straight in as our officer for the whole charity.
Yep.
And you currently see all aspects of safeguarding. And you know, as we know and as our listeners know, safeguarding is so key and important in what we do. Because we work and support and care and educate some of the most vulnerable children and families in society. So we have a real duty of care to keep them safe. And as a corporate parent and having statutory responsibility, safeguarding is paramount in what we do. And Eileen, there's so many different types of safeguarding. There's so many different strands to it, and which we'll come on today. But your role, you sit in our independent operational governance team.
Yeah.
And that's purpose because you're then not line managed by any of our managers or HODs in operations, so you can't be influenced by any decisions or what's going on for that department or our finances or quality assurance. Or it's about you having that operational independence to ensure that you can give an objective view and ensure that our young people and families and assure trustees and us as the board that we are operating safely.
Definitely. Yeah.
So as we know, everyone's got responsibility for safeguarding, and I know you deliver training as well as actually support all the processes and reporting. But we also, it's key that our processes and our reporting is robust because we deal with so many different regulators.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that our safeguarding governance processes are industry leading in terms of social care.
Yeah.
I think we've really developed some fantastic systems over the years. We've taken some key learning from NASA, which is all about organisational learning, and we've taken stuff from the military, and we've really defined our strategy to manage risk and safeguarding. So I think we've got a really good system. Yeah. And hopefully I think from your previous experience you can sort of confident and probably agree with that. I'd like to think, you know, the stuff that we've got in place. So prior to Fairways, Eileen, you had a successful career in the police force.
I did.
So around 30 years.
30 years and 6 months, actually.
Wow. That is a long time.
A long time.
And I bet you got some stories.
Oh my goodness, I could write a book.
I bet you could, yeah. Do you know what? I'll let you into a little secret. When I was 14, 15, I actually wanted to be in the police force.
Did you?
Yeah. And I went on some work experience, and it's really good. It was in Portsmouth, and do you know what? One of these, I spent different days with different departments. So one I was with like on the beat, and we went sort of around in the, I think it was called, is it like the response car at the time? Yeah. Then I spent a couple of days with CID. Yeah. And this one case, right, in CID, it was HMP Kingston Prison that's now shut in Portsmouth. The CID had to go in and look at a murder investigation. Yeah. And I think I'm right in thinking that HMP Kingston Prison were for people that had got a life sentence for murder, and I think they tended then to see their last years of their sentence out in Kingston. Yeah. But what had happened is this guy in the a prisoner had went in the workshops, and they do courses and stuff. But he had in the electrical box in the because it was all photos that we looked at CID and they took of the scene of what happened. But the electrical box in the hallway, he had put a wire, and he fixed the wire all along the corridor, all the way around to the washroom.
Yeah. In the prison?
In the prison.
Okay.
Right. And linked it up to a bath. So you know the overflow, when you get in the bath, the overflow goes up. Yeah. It linked this wire up into the overflow. So when he said in his statements he was trying to sort of kill himself.
Okay.
So when he got in the bath, the water would rise and he'd electrocute and die.
Yeah.
But he looked at the pictures, he'd managed to get the paint out of the workshop, paint all the same colour in the corridor and everything, right? But someone else got in the bath. So so he ended up murdering someone. But that's crazy.
It's a bit of an unusual story.
That is
very premeditated.
But that was like...
So that was at the time when you were allowed to have children at 14, 15 doing attachments to the police. They don't allow any of that now. No, because of health and safety and risks and things like that.
Yeah, I found
so you were lucky that you got to see that.
Yeah, and I can still remember that. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But I could never go in the police because at the time, if you had anyone in immediate family that had any convictions and stuff, then...
You weren't allowed.
No, so...
They delved in very deeply to your background. Yeah. They really did. Yeah.
So... due to, which I won't go into detail, that was short-lived, so I never went in the police force.
Otherwise, you think you would have done it?
I think I would, yeah. I just, even now, I'll watch the programme like the 999.
It's a fascinating career. But it's never like the TV programmes.
No, I'm
you think it's like that. They think they solve crime in half an hour. It doesn't happen like that.
No, I'm sure it doesn't.
It's a lot longer and slower.
Okay, right. So let's start at the beginning then.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up.
Okay, so that's unusual as well, to be fair. So I was actually born in Oxford. In a little place called Littlemore, which now actually is mainly a mental health facility. I wasn't there for very long, about 6 months. And then myself and my three older sisters, the younger 4 girls, went to Cornwall.
Okay.
So we lived in Cornwall. We lived in a place called Lostwithiel. And my mum was brought up from Marazion. My dad was Cornish as well, so they were all from Marazion and Penzance. But when I was 7, my dad, in his wisdom, decided to hoik us all, the whole family, over to South Africa.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I went to South Africa in 1977, so I was 7 years old. My sister's like 2 years and 2 years above me, so that's the 3 older sisters. And we went over on a boat. It took us 2 weeks to get there, over to South Africa, and I stayed there for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So my childhood was brought up in South Africa, so it was a very unusual upbringing because it was very different. Apartheid was in then, so there was a lot of segregation, a lot of racism that went on. But I went to school there. The education was so strict, you would not believe. It's nothing like the UK. It's really, really, really strict. And I came back in 1984 when I was 16, 17.
Oh, wow. Okay, I never knew that.
So I came back with a quite strong South African accent.
Did you? Yeah.
People thought I was Australian.
Really?
I used to absolutely tell stories when I went to college. I went to college in Southampton, and I put on my South African accent, and I used to say to them, you used to have like the tigers and the giraffes living in our back garden, and the baboons used to speak from the trees. And people were like, really? I went, no, it's a civilised society in South Africa. You know, you do have normal gardens and normal things like that. I think everybody thought that South Africa was full of like the safari animals in your back garden. It was like that at all.
I picture that, like Wild at Heart, that programme. That's what I think it's
not like that at all. Okay. So my life was brought up in South Africa. Oh, okay. And I did have a very strong accent. And if I speak to a South African now, like Faye, I will say, goeiemorgen, Faye. Bye, donkey. And we talk a little bit of Afrikaans.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you said you come back at 16.
Yeah.
How come? What made?
Because at the time in South Africa, the violence was really serious, getting really bad, and we lived in a place called Benoni, about an hour outside Johannesburg. So quite like inner city-ish. It was a lovely area, but it was just getting too violent. It was so unpredictable. My mum was like, she didn't want to be there anymore. So we came back. But I only came back, my other sister Yvette, my other sister Jenny remained in South Africa because she was married. So she stayed there for about another 8 years, I think.
Yeah, it's it's known, isn't it, for danger. Like my cousin, she's married to her husband's South African. And my cousin's like blonde. And when they go there, like there's certain areas where they have to hide in the car when they're passing through. Some of the stuff they tell me, I'm like,
yeah. I went back once. I think I went back twice while I've been in the UK. I think the first time was in the late 90s, where my sister Jenny, who remained there, was in a domestic abusive relationship. So I went back to rescue her because the South African policies at the time didn't really recognise domestic abuse. So I went back to help her and support her. And I remember going to pick up her children, and I was driving her white BMW, and she said, whatever you do, because she was at work, if you're going to go pick up the children, make sure when you stop at a stop street, you don't have any jewellery on, you don't have anything, any handbag on the side, the seat, put it underneath you, because, literally it was that dangerous that I had to make sure that you were really cautious about your safety all the time.
Scary, yeah.
But what was interesting, when I went back that time, I just started working in the Child Protection Unit. So I joined in 93, Child Protection Unit 96 to 2000, first time in Child Protection as a police constable. And I contacted because this is what the sort of thing I do, I contacted the Johannesburg police,
Yeah.
and I contacted their equivalent of their child protection and said, hey, I'm a UK cop, I'm a child protection specialist, I'd love to come and see you and explain how we do things in the UK, and I'd like to see what you do, how you speak to children in South Africa. So I spent 2 days with them while I was out there trying to help my sister. Talking to them about English processes, how we interview children on video, and talking about what they do, and gave them some really good ideas about how they can progress and sort of try to look at the ability that we do in the UK. Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I came back and I did an article for our police newspaper at the time about my experience working with Joburg Police.
Oh, brilliant. Cool. So just rewind a little bit. So you come back 16 because of circumstances in South Africa.
Yeah.
Then did you have the normal type of education? You go to college, university?
No, well, I had to go to college. Well, it was weird because my Afrikaans, South African qualifications weren't the same as the British ones. It was all a bit weird. I don't think they could quite figure out. This was back in like the mid 80s. I had to do all my all my O levels again. Then I had to do my A-levels, so I stayed at college till I was 19, so I was like a later person.
Right, okay.
Literally always walking around with books. So I went to Hill College in Southampton, which is now Taunton's.
Oh, okay.
Taunton's College, Southampton.
So when you come back, did you go back to Southampton area then?
Yeah, we stayed. We lived in just around Upper Shirley area, there, in Southampton. Yeah.
So what age did you join the police force?
23.
So
there was a gap.
Yeah, between 9 and 23, what did you do?
I was a recruitment consultant in construction. And it was a really good job, actually. I had a lovely company car, worked in Basingstoke, and the construction industry was really quite flying high then. So obviously you got paid good money, you got commission every time you placed somebody. But then round about 91, 92, it took a major dip in the construction industry.
Okay.
Loads of redundancies. So I got into the police, weirdly, because one of the ladies who worked at this agency I worked for, she was an accountant. Her husband was a detective. I still remember his name, Jerry Whitmarsh. I remember that. And he was a detective, and he worked in like the Tadley Basingstoke area. And I thought, what am I going to do? What will I do with my life? I thought, I can communicate with people. I'll tell you what. And she said to me, why don't you go out on like a late shift with Jerry, see if you like it. All right then. So I'm there in my early 20s, went and did like house-to-house inquiries on a burglary. And I thought, I can do this. It sounds good. So I signed up to join. It took me back a year, between sort of 92 and 93 to actually join, because they did all these checks and fitness checks.
Okay.
And you had to do presentations, you had to do cultural sort of tests and knowledge checks and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, it took me a whole year to get in.
Oh, right, okay. So you sort of fell into it really then?
I fell into it.
Yeah.
It wasn't wasn't a goal. No. It wasn't like, I'm going to join this because I just fell into it really. In 93, February the 22nd.
Okay, so 93, that was the start of a massive career.
Huge.
Yeah,
huge.
Like you say, over 30 years. So talk me through what's some of the roles, because I know you've had quite a
loads.
Lots of different roles. So talk to me about some of the...
So in 93 to 96, I was a beat officer in Bitton in Southampton, walked the beat. Yep, that was interesting.
I bet it was, yeah.
That was interesting, and actually, that part of Southampton, there was a lot of reported child protection work, a lot of child abuse, a lot of domestics. So I think that what pushed me into working in child protection was the fact that when you're a beat officer, you're almost like you're firefighting all the time. You can't solve the bigger picture, the bigger problem. So when the vacancy came up in Basingstoke, it was Basingstoke Child Protection at the time, although we sort of worked in Alton, as a PC, I thought, I want to dedicate my time to trying to protect children. That's what I want to do. So in 96, that's when I joined the Child Protection Unit. That's what it was called then, until around about sort of 99, because it was like a 3-year tenure.
Okay.
And I was a PC up there before I became a detective. After I left that, I had my children. I worked on the intelligence unit based in Winchester. While I was pregnant, I had Eileen and James quite close together. And then round about 2002, I became a domestic abuse officer, specialist in domestic abuse, and I worked covering the Eastleigh, Andover area, Chandler's Ford up around there. And I did that for about 4.5, 5 years, and I worked part-time. So that was a very interesting role. So that was my introduction to basically CID work.
Yeah.
And that was rescuing, essentially, domestic abuse victims from really serious incidents.
Yeah.
And it was literally like I'd get given all the information, and I would go and visit the victim of domestic abuse. And particularly if there were children involved, it was very much saying to that victim, you need to decide, this is either you with him, if you're going to stay with him, if it's a male or female situation, or your children. If you decide to choose him, I'm taking your children. And it was a really tough decision for that person to make, absolutely. But if they decided, no, I want to come with you, Eileen, I would do like the emergency pack bag. We would have like secret coded messages. And I would literally say, right, I'm turning up at 10 o'clock. Has he gone to work? Yeah, he's gone to work. Right, I'll be there in the unmarked car. I'd help them physically pack all their stuff up, put all the kids in the car, and then take them to the refuge. So I worked very closely with the refuge people, very closely.
I bet that was quite emotional, quite challenging.
Yeah, because I would take them to a refuge and then I'd find out 3 months later they'd returned. So then I'd go back and go back and go. And it was like this backwards and forwards yo-yo effect. And that's what probably made me look, certainly from a child protection point of view, around there's such a bigger picture here with what goes on and what children are witnessing and being traumatised by what they're seeing and what they're hearing when it comes to domestics, you know.
And some people, you know, when you hear about domestic violence and that, people are, why don't you just leave him or just leave her? It's not that simple, is it?
I was constantly asked that question.
Yeah.
As a coordinator, constantly, like the uniform officers and CID said, Eileen, why don't they just leave? He said, well, hold on, you've got to look at the bigger picture. The reason they don't leave is because they're so frightened. And actually, the moment a victim starts leaving, that starts that process, that's when it's more dangerous. That's murder prevention at that point. And I had quite a lot of success about getting somebody away and keeping them away. And if it meant sending them to a refuge that was completely out of county, that's what I would do. It meant sending them to the one man's refuge, wherever that is. That's what I would do. There was refuges where we have just Asian ladies. That's what I would do, just to try and allow them to cope and be away. But it was such a bigger thing. One story I want to tell, which is really fascinating. So this was probably about 5 years ago. So I know I'm jumping all over the place from a chronological point of view, but I was in child protection in Basingstoke. This is my latter end of my career, and I got this email from this woman, and she started typing, "Hi Eileen, you probably don't remember me, but 16 years ago you saved my life and my children's lives. You came to my house when you were a domestic abuse coordinator all that time back in the early 2000s, and you rescued me and my children. You took me to a refuge, and you helped me, and you supported me, and you worked with me, and you did all this and the other." She said, "Now I'm a social worker."
Wow.
And it was like, wow, that was extraordinary. I've still got the letter or the email. That was quite fascinating. So you rarely get that level of feedback when you find out where somebody went to. And that was really lovely. It's really humbling.
Yeah, well,
very humbling.
Especially the work you did at site, actually, you really made a difference there. For someone to say that is
it was
amazing.
Great. But I used to take them to court, go and support them at court when they were going to Crown Court to give evidence and all of that. So it's just the whole journey to try and help them,
Interesting. So after that,
I became a detective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So because I worked in the CID office in Eastleigh, I became a detective. So that was around about the sort of 2004, 2005. I worked in central, normal CID, we call it, normal CID. So the term is we would investigate serious and complex crime. So it's everything that is serious besides a murder, because we had a murder unit. So GBH, ABH, assaults, fraud. Online wasn't so prevalent then, to be fair. So it was anything to do with adults, really, that was serious and complex crime. I did really enjoy it. It was a really good bit of work, because I did that for 10 years.
Did you work on any big cases?
Yeah, I worked on some good cases. I worked on some really good cases. But the problem is, Gareth, there's so many that I can't pinpoint them all. But my focus constantly, even I was working on those CID cases and I was interviewing loads of suspects, and suspect interviewing is a really interesting concept, particularly if you're interviewing rape suspects. I dealt with a lot of rape cases. I also became a specialist rape officer.
So that's a skill in itself, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, because if you're interviewing a victim of rape, that is something that's very different. So it takes an absolute specialist skill. So you're specially trained to do that. So I did that for many, many years. And you do it on top of your normal job as a detective. You're also the rape officer. That was very rewarding. And that could be at 2 o'clock in the morning. It could be 5 o'clock in the morning, in the afternoon, because it would happen at all hours. But that gave me great skills in my interviewing technique. But my focus I kept swaying towards the victim side as opposed to the suspect side.
Right.
I enjoyed interviewing suspects, don't get me wrong, it's very challenging, and you can have great tactics doing that. But from a victim point of view, I kept swaying that way. So after doing CID for a period of time, I went back I actually worked in the vulnerable adult unit, a specialist unit, where I would support elderly vulnerable adults through fraud, mainly fraud through family members, carers. So a lot of that was going on. and, doorstop the crime, that sort of thing. And again, interviewing very vulnerable adults, whether it was in an interview suite or interview them at their home. A bit like this, you would interview them with a tripod camera, because they're not mobile, and you'd actually speak to them about what's happened to them, and then gather the evidence and investigate the crime. I had a carer job, which was really quite sad, Chandlersford, where she basically defrauded this lady. She was her carer. She managed to get the debit card. She pretended to phone up Barclays Bank and actually to put on the voice of the lady, managed to get the PIN number. So I did all this detective work, contacted Barclays, got the voice recording, got everything she did, got the CCTV of her taking the money out, arrested her. She was denying everything she was saying, and then I put the evidence to her and I played the recording of her voice. And I even got a voice matching expert to say that it was her. Yeah, and she pleaded guilty to that. That was great. That was interesting.
Yeah.
And sadly, the lady, she got all her money back, but she died about a year later.
That's
Yeah.
So what lengths people go to?
Extraordinary.
It's
Absolutely
crazy.
extraordinary.
Yeah. So after sort of the vulnerable adults.
Then I moved back into child protection.
Okay.
Yeah,
Back full
back to
circle.
child protection. Yeah. So I worked at Southampton Central Police Station, the new one.
Yeah.
So I worked there in child protection for about another 3 or 4 years. Some interesting cases again. I can't remember them all because there's so many. But we then started working off what we call achieving best evidence, which is different to the original one back in the early 90s. It's a much more in-depth style of interviewing children. And I really loved interviewing very young children, like the under sixes, because the level of information you can get. And my skills just increase and increase because I was able to communicate with children with like 2 or 3 word ords. So to a 2.5, 3-year-old, learning the technique of sitting on the floor with a child, using a level of non-leading props to try to get the child to talk to you. And I just picked up these question styles that I then developed and spread out to the team, and then I started training the team. And then I got my qualifications to get promoted, so detective sergeant qualifications, and I did a lot of acting skills then as well.
Oh, okay.
But then because child protection is tenured, because it's a stressful environment to work in, I finished there around about 2013, 2014, and I went to our training department in CRD training, which is towards Wickham.
Okay.
And I worked there for 5 years, and I got promoted in there. I got in there, and I ran a team of about 8 or 9 detectives, and we delivered all the training, CRD training for the whole of the force.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I built up my training skills and my qualification,
okay, right.
course with uni. And I then also became the guru for interviewing children, adults, and every safeguarding aspect, from FGM to honour-based violence to stalking to exploitation to online stuff, you name it. That's where I developed it all and researched it all, and then became the person with that level of knowledge.
Excellent. Cool.
And then after that,
more.
There's just 2 tiny bits. I went to CID in Basingstoke.
Okay.
Around about 2020. I did a year. Didn't really like it very much. Just found it was a little bit of a processing situation. It was just like, you had prisoners that came in that were all arrested overnight. You'd give it to certain detectives, and it wasn't I didn't find the satisfaction there. Yeah. Vacancy came up in child protection. Again, my final time. So I was at Basingstoke as a detective sergeant there, ran a team of about 6 or 7. Then a vacancy came up in Southampton. I went to Southampton and ended my career there.
Wow.
That's it. 30 years.
And then then Fairways.
Then I didn't really have time off. I had 3 weeks off. I didn't really have time off because I'm a child protection chair as well, as you know, for child protection conferences. So I did child protection chair work and then joined Fairways,
Brilliant. So just a couple of questions. Well, actually, just off the... just to sort of go a bit... I know you said it's nothing like the programmes, but I've got to ask this question because it always plays on my mind, right? On these drama police programmes, right, and they're in the office, and I think they're really rude when they speak to each other. Like, it's like this
What,
authority.
you mean the colleagues, the peers?
Yeah, and I'm like...
You mean the ranks?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
And I think, and my sense of that, because I think we're very trauma-informed, we're very relationship-based in our work, and I think... Do actually people speak to each other?
No, they're not allowed.
Okay,
they're not allowed. That was the drama. So for example, my team would call me Sarge.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't like that. Just call me Eileen. Okay,
Right,
I don't
okay.
like the Sarge thing. I don't like shortening things. But if somebody was an inspector, you had to either call them sir or ma'am.
Right, okay.
Especially if you were in a big group and it was a conference, for example, you're having a discussion about something, a briefing about an investigation, it would be sir or mum. But on a one-to-one, because I trained most of them,
So,
it was like, oh, Gareth, how you doing? type thing, you know. So yeah, you don't.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the respect has to be there,
Okay.
like the,
I had to
like
ask
the
that,
military.
so,
Yeah, they don't, yeah.
And yeah, I guess the other one, the controversial, that it's been quite controversial in the police force, you know, like gender roles and, you know, and I guess being a woman, you've been extremely successful, but it's a woman in the police force. You hear the things on the news, you know, was that tough?
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
To start off with, I think when I was so naive when I joined at 23, I didn't know anything. So you go in there with this complete naivety, as a lot of women did in that period, the early 90s. Was there the sexism? Yeah, absolutely there was. You know, was it like, you know, the terminology was used, which is all now obviously completely stamped out now. So, but you just did it. You went along with it because that's all you knew. You knew no different. Towards the latter end, probably the last 20 years, obviously it's been stamped out. And you know, I would still get as female bosses, there's more female bosses now than there ever was in the last 5 to 10 years, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, our deputy chief, who's acting chief now, is female. And we had quite a few female chiefs, actually. We've had Olivia Pinckney, but the one deputy was female. But there was still this element of, for me, in my department, I had a couple of men who were like, okay, you know, what we're going to try and tell us, don't try and tell me how to do my job when it comes to interviewing children, because I've done it much more than you have. So, you know, this is the advice I'm going to give you. So you do still get an element of that, but it's not as much now. And
I'm sure you've got a very strong, independent woman, Eileen. So.
I mean, if I know my business, don't try and tell me tell me how I got. Every day's a school day and we can all improve.
Absolutely.
But I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of children and hundreds of victims of crime, of serious crime. So I know most of the time it works. There are times when it doesn't.
Sure.
You know, there are times when you might interview a child, you don't get the disclosure, you've got to walk away, which is disappointing. But you work with what you've got. So I do know the processes well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, what I guess in terms, just finally on the police sort of force in your career, what's your biggest achievement? Would you say in the police force?
I think probably the passion that I've got for child protection itself is probably the biggest thing. If I had to walk away with a legacy, when one of the deputy chiefs did my goodbye retirement speech, he came up with all these things. You know, like I've been on children in need. I've been what's it called? The teddy bear.
Children in Need.
I've been on that. I've been on radio stations about domestic abuse. When he talked about all this stuff that I've been through, raising money for children's charities, things like that. Most of it, my legacy would be that actually in the police, I went out my way to find information to keep children safe and vulnerable adults, absolutely. And it was around that, and then passing that knowledge and that skill onto others, and also fine-tuning what officers were doing or not doing. I definitely put that out there, going, you know, you're going to do an interview with a child, I'm going to check your DVD, I'm going to watch it, I want to look at your interview plan, I want to see what you're asking the child, I want to understand why you didn't get this from the child or you did, you know, what did you use to do that? And I think that's the main thing that I would say that I pushed as hard as I could. But because, you know, not everybody has that level of passion. A lot do, but not everybody has that. You have to have a passion when you're working in child protection. You've got to constantly strive for that to make it better every single day.
100%.
Every day.
And I can see, even you just talking about it now and how passionate you are. But I've also seen it in Fairways. You know, you are passionate about that. And
you've got to try and get it right. You're not going to get it right every time, but you've got to try.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? So let's come on to Fairways then. So I think you're an absolute asset and we found a diamond, you know, especially your experiences. And like I said at the start, we work with some of the most vulnerable children. So having your skill, knowledge on board and support Fairways is fantastic. So how did Fairways come about?
I think, what's weird, actually, one of the girls that I mentored, actually, Heather Tag, I think she found the job on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yes, I think it was on LinkedIn. She said, Eileen, you'd really like this. I went, that looks interesting. Oh my goodness, it's a charity. And I know when I came, I still remember my interview. To the day, I remember sat in that room, Matt was to my right, Natalie was sort of around my sort of, 1 o'clock-ish, and then Brat was sat off to my left, did my presentation on governance and stuff like that. Then we started the questions, and I think we got to like question 3, and Natalie asked me something, I cannot remember what it was, and we went off a complete tangent. Complete tangent. I don't even remember what it was about. She doesn't remember either, actually. But we talked about something. It was like, and we were nattering for ages, and I went up looking at Matt going, we better get back to the questions, But yeah, it came about, and then when I got offered it, I was like absolutely over the moon. And for me, I say it to a lot of my police colleagues. I speak to them a lot. Again, I find an absolute privilege to work for a charity and to work for a charity like Fairways, because what I love about the fact is that it's not for profit, and everything goes back into helping the children. And for me, that is an absolute no-brainer, because the police force working in the public sector, it's not always like that. Do you know what I mean? You have to fight to get to things done to protect children, the most vulnerable. Not that they didn't want to, it's because they had to spread their money everywhere. Whereas this is all in that one pocket, and that's what makes the difference.
Good.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're the safeguarding officer for the Fairways. So tell us a little bit about your role. What do you actually do, Eileen, in terms of Fairways?
Gosh, day to day. Okay, so day to day. I think, day to day, as I've developed the role a little bit more, I'm quite strategically looking at the bigger picture of safeguarding now. Now that I've got Claire working temporarily as the deputy, that really helps because I can pass on some work to her. So I think the bigger picture is around looking at where can we improve? Where can we improve? What is the data telling us? What are the trends? What are the reporting processes? I'm very much also about visiting all the services as much as I possibly can, because you get so much out of that. You really do get that level of what's going on the ground, because you should never forget actually what support workers are doing and who they're talking to, because you get more information that way. So visiting the services, completing reports where I'm doing a level of research, but staying on top of the day-to-day higher, I would say the high-risk cases. Yeah. There are definitely cases where I don't really like the terminology business as usual in child protection, but cases where you'd say, I'm sort of expecting that to be normal-ish, but when you get those high-risk ones, it's like jumping on those as quick as I possibly can to say, right, what are we doing? What's the difference we're going to make? Doing after-action reviews, that's really important. Yeah. Understanding what the problems are that are going on the ground, how potentially can we look to improve that service, and training is a massive part of it as well, massive, because I come with the backstories, and I think people sitting in a level of training want to hear, but why do we do it like that? Well, I can tell you why, because this is what happened to this child. This is what happened to Victoria, Daniel Pelko, all of those cases that we know about, and pinning that on from my own personal experience from the police, where I dealt with child deaths and why that's happened, but looking at the bigger picture and sharing that information and constantly pushing that message through. If you're in doubt, you contact me. Speak to me about it and I can help you.
Definitely. It's like linking all the dots, isn't
it?
All
the dots.
Yeah,
definitely.
So what would you say, just from your experience sort of in Fairways and externally, but are the most significant safeguarding issues or topics that impact looked after children, would you say?
Lack of talking to other people. And do you know what? It sounds so basic. It's about everybody holding a responsibility of their own to say, if I've got some information, I need to share it with those that it's relevant to. And making sure that we do that on a constant basis. And some people think, well, I'm always sharing it with the MASH, or I'm always sharing it with the social worker, I'm always sharing it with it, and nobody does anything. I said, you might think nobody's doing with it, but actually behind the scenes they probably are. But actually sharing it and communicating is the key to keeping children safe. And as we know, looked after children are more vulnerable than children who are not looked after because of that level of trauma that they've gone through and all of those things that have happened in their lives. They need that additional support. So we've got to be the parent in that. And by talking to the social workers, talking to everybody else that's there, and that understand what that child's going through, that is the key to it. Because if we don't talk, nobody else knows what's going on. I always use this analogy, and I use it in training. If you think about Victoria Climbier, as I say, you've got 15, 20 people that comes into a big room, and you give them all a playing card. They all come in. And I say, a piece of jigsaw. Okay, you give them a jigsaw puzzle, and you say, right, that piece of jigsaw represents part of Victoria's life, okay? That the person sat next to you, obviously, knows nothing about that jigsaw piece, but you're going to get on the floor, and you're going to start from the edges, and you're going to work your way in, and those are the bits about Victoria's life you're going to get to know. There will be gaps, because not everybody else being able to attend, or somebody's off sick, or somebody hasn't answered their out of office, or they have put their out of office on, or they're on holiday, or whatever the circumstances are. But you're not going to know everything, but you all sit there, you communicate, put the pieces together, you're going to get the best possible picture of that child's life.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you are sharing those concerns, because safeguarding is not about one agency, one person, one responsibility. It's everybody.
Absolutely.
Because we can't do it by ourselves. Because if we did, we'd be failing, which is what we've done when we failed children in the past. You know.
You know, I like that analogy of the jigsaw puzzle, because you're right. Because some people can, you know, do as best they can, but they work a bit in silo. And actually, it's so important always looking at the bigger picture and bringing them jigsaw pieces together and going, actually, wow, what is going on? And
but some people are frightened as professionals. Some people are worried about, oh, well, I've got to contact the social worker again. They're going to get fed up with me. The MASH, I said to them, I don't care if the MASH get fed up with seeing fairways. I said, because actually the MASH will think fairways are on it. They keep telling us. It might be a little bit of newish information, but they keep telling us. Because if we don't tell them, how do we know? Even if the MASH close it down, we've told them.
Definitely.
And it's not about passing the buck or passing responsibility. It's about sharing what our concerns are.
Yeah.
And remember that safeguarding, the definition of safeguarding, it's very, very subjective. You might look at something and think that's not. I'll look at it going, but I think it is because of these reasons. And that's, for my role, my responsibility is to look at something from an objective point of view and go, okay, well, hold on a minute. If we don't tell that person, how are they going to know about that? What happens to that risk? And I always end things by saying, what would happen if you did not share that? Or if you didn't act on that? Or if you didn't sit down with that child and that child's upset and ask them, can I help you? How are you doing? What would happen if you didn't do that? That child could go off and hurt themselves, or they get hurt. And it's that question that keeps us binding together.
Yeah,
you know?
It's so important, isn't it?
Very.
So I just got me thinking then about when I started working 20 years ago as a support worker and working in like children's homes, and you know, the word might be thrown around now and then, for example, I think there might be drug running or this and that, and and now like everyone talks about county lines. It's got so big, and whether that's because it's social media and everything else, you've got to understand that more, but that seems to be like it's rife at the minute, county lines. And quite worrying in terms of for teenage young people and young people in care. But would you agree with that?
Completely. And also the scary thing is the children are getting younger.
Yeah.
They're actually getting younger. We're talking 10, 11 years old, who are actually getting pulled into these gangs. And people often think stereotypically, oh, it's a child who's vulnerable, is looked after. Actually, it happens for children who are not in that situation. But it's definitely getting worse. And the problem is that social media is breeding that. So, you know, children are being contacted by their phones and brought into gangs all through social media. So a lot of it comes down to what are we doing about social media? And when I look at like our trends in fairways, we talk about online safety all the time, and it's always hitting that radar, online safety. But actually, what can we do about it? You know, and we are doing as much as we possibly can, but we could always do more. Educating parents. These parent coffee mornings we're trying to get. Bringing them into that, because it's their responsibility as well.
It's I was going to ask you about social media and your thoughts around that, and do you think it's really made it worse in terms of safeguarding for young people? But
I mean, I'm old enough that I've seen it where social media wasn't around. So back in the sort of even in the early 2000s, it wasn't like it was. You had your lovely Nokia phone, didn't you? You could use internet access with that.
Absolutely.
And ever since the internet's been widely available, and parents are not as wise to what children can access on the internet. A 5 or 6 year olds accessing the internet and accessing sites that they don't understand and being asked to do things that they don't understand. That for me is huge. It's such a worry. And the thing is, it's actually going to get harder as the years go on. So we have to do everything we possibly can that any child that comes into our care, we are educating them, we're talking to them about the risks, about the concerns, but we're expanding it. That's that contextualised safeguarding again, isn't it? We've got to bring the other people out there back into this as well and saying, you have a duty of care as well. But a lot of parents don't understand the technology. I mean, I'm not great with it, but they don't understand the technology and they don't understand what their child's looking at. So bringing that in is a great thing for us to do.
Scary world out there.
Very scary.
Okay. I could talk to you for ages because I really I enjoy this subject. But just a few more sort of things I'm interested to understand. But I guess your why What's your why? What makes you get out of bed in the morning and come to Fairways?
Well, apart from my 3 mornings a week with my PT that I do at 6:30 in my garden every morning, that helps me get out of bed, I'll tell you. What makes me come in? Because I think about all those kids and think, oh my God, what else can we do? And I went to Haida this morning. It was so lovely to speak to Naomi about a couple of the children that are there, and just sitting down talking to them. I go, okay, so what's happening to this particular young person? Oh, well, this is happening. So, okay, that's a bit of a worry. What can we do about it? Okay, this is what I'd like you to do. Let's try and work together. I'm going to discuss it with oversight tomorrow morning, and we're going to see what else we can do to support the young person and make sure CAMs are doing their thing and bringing it all together. So what gets me out is actually the thought that I can make a difference.
Yeah.
And making a difference as a team. Making a difference as an organisation and as a charity, we know we can do that. Every single day we can make that difference. And that's what keeps me ticking. That brings out my passion. And when I see something and I think, oh, that was a near miss, or, the baby's over at the family centre, what we're doing about this level of protection, like bringing in the baby boozing protocol, making sure the staff are all up to key. They all know what that is.
Yeah.
Having a collaboration with the nursing staff and the safeguarding nursing staff at the hospital, are we all on the same page? Bringing in guest speakers at a safeguarding forum. We've got the missing exploited, the children's services Willow team and the Southampton exploitation social workers are coming in on the next Punishers Forum to give that guest speaker. So bringing in people that I know to share that knowledge, that helps. That really does help. And I think that's just people want to hear from other people all the time, don't they? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And we talk a lot about in Fairways about our values, about playing your part and being professional, accepting, reflective and transparent. But what's your core values? I'll say this: if you stick a rock, you stick at the seaside and break you in half. What's the core values that are running through you, Eileen? Would you say?
I just want to change the world. I know I can't. Oh my God, I can't. I get, my values are all around just doing the best we can. Doing the best we can with the tools that we've got, but just thinking that every day is a new day and we can improve. We can improve on everything we're doing. But then I would say that we can always improve. But most things that Fairways do, absolutely brilliant. When I talk about, the staff, when you deliver something that's new and training and new concepts, they're so switched on, they're so accepting. I get the odd, like, oh, I don't agree with that. So, okay, you might not agree with it, but actually I can look at it from this point of view. And I like the fact that everybody really takes it on board and they really learn. And people want to make that difference. And I think that's what's brilliant about working for a charity like Fairways, because it's just, everybody's there for the right reason. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Good, thank you. And then final question I've got. Yeah. So
is it a police question?
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
You've touched on it. I've been asking sort of a generic question to everyone, like what, especially in like everyday life at the minute, the chaos and the complexities of life. It all sort of impacts on our mental health. So, what do you do for your own well-being, and or what do you recommend? You did mention just now about kettlebells. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but what do you do? PT.
So what do I do? So I go and see my sister in Shropshire. I've just come back from Cornwall. I went to Cornwall last weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, see my daughter. She lives in Cornwall. So I go out, love going out. I love walking. I walk. But my PT probably keeps me sane. Although when I'm halfway through it, I'm like, oh my God, why am I lifting these 16 kettlebells in each arm, doing squats and like, my God. But my PT's a retired police officer as well, actually.
Oh, okay.
But so that's what keeps me sane. And it keeps my well-being. And you have to have your mental health has to be in a good place. Certainly to do the work that I do and the work that we do. And I have dealt with some pretty traumatic situations in the police, and you are looked after. But there are certainly parts of that part of my role that I'm glad I don't do anymore, especially around child death. That's a horrible thing. Although a lot of people say to me, how did you get through that? And I get asked that by a lot of people in training. And I said, well, do you know what? I used to get through it by thinking, I'm going to speak to this little child, I'm going to find out why that child's passed away, and I'll do everything I can and move every stone to make sure I find out if someone's hurt you intentionally. I will find out who that is, and I will solve that, with the team. And I think that's what keeps you going. And your well-being and everything. I definitely believe in physical exercise, 100% physical exercise. But I do like yoga every now and then as well.
Okay,
Love a bit of yoga.
Yeah, I need to try that actually.
Oh God, this yoga teacher that I go to. Oh, she is amazing. South African, strong accent. She is amazing. And the stuff you do, and you come away after an hour feeling, you feel really good about yourself.
Good.
So meditation and yoga is really good.
Cool. Well, Eileen, thank you so much. That's been so insightful. It's been really nice speaking to you and learning more about you actually, because I never knew anything about South Africa and some of your training experiences and what you delivered in the police force actually. So thank you for joining me today.
No, it's been good fun.
I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye.